What's up, guys? It is the panel. I'm Hypertension. You know me. You may not like me. Whatever. I am here with Primus.
How's it going, everybody? Number one boosted caster here to provide you with some entertainment here tonight.
We're here with iHeal.
We're supporting all of Brown Silver.
Yeah, not quite there, but and we're here with our special guest, Kazulu Cthulhu.
The guy with the difficult name.
It was a little bit difficult to say, yeah.
Don't remind me of the games where you played Lulu and I had to play by cast it.
Dude, everybody hates my name.
I don't mind it if you're not playing Lulu. If you're playing Lulu, I want to shoot myself.
Zulu Cthulhu on Lulu.
My premiere game was on Lulu.
Shouting Zulu.
Oh my god.
Dear God, let's oh, that's an apropos way to start the show, I suppose.
Oh, come on. It's not that bad of a joke.
I said apropos. That means appropriate.
Just the way you were saying it, I couldn't tell with facetious or not. Okay, so let's start off by talking about how it went this week between what happened in games, how individual people did. Let's see what What does everybody think? Anyone want to start off?
I think everyone's been talking about the ending of the stream when Gloryhound DC'd and Crown Royal stomped 4v5. I think that's pretty much the game everyone is talking about. And I just think that just shows how strong of a team Crown Royal is. They've really gotten it together since PSI. So I do give them a lot of credit for how they've performed since then. Outside of that, I wasn't too impressed by any of the teams on stream. SBK kind of looked a little bit below where they were at PSI, so I don't know what's going on with them, but that's just my 2 cents.
All right. Seeing as we have players here on both SBK and Crown Royal, which one of you two wants to go first?
Let's let the second best Leona go first.
Second best. All right. Okay, so over week 1, I really like to see the double boots AP Udyr. I thought that was a really interesting choice. I honestly was kind of sad following that up because I didn't think we would be able to provide to the people what they provided. But it turns out we did because Gloryhound's internet took a shot. But other than that, I want to say Weeaboo Beatdown, they're really good.
Yeah, I think everybody kind of perceived Weeaboo Beatdown as really coming in strong after those scrims. They weren't able to show at PSI because they were earning their way into the Premier League.
Yeah,
and I would say they've been playing. I think other than Team Zen, I think you probably scrimmed them the most, right?
We have played them.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, I would say with iHeals probably played them the most. I say right.
We played them a total of 3 games, except for our CL match, so I guess 4 games. We took a single game off them.
Well, and that was a very good series. I remember I don't think I was able to cast that one. I think I had something else I had to do tonight, but that night, but I was able to watch it, and it looked like both teams looked strong. But what happened coming into this week with SBK?
Well, Cora moved into college, and he had a new laptop and a new mouse. And 60 more ping than normal, so he's kind of getting used to it. He moved in the Sunday before the matches, but that's not really that good of an excuse. So I don't know. We didn't really prepare. We were too cocky, I think.
Well, hey, looking ahead to week 2, let's hope that everything starts straightening up for you. So, did anybody think there were any major upsets other than?
I think there's one that comes to mind.
Which one do you think?
I think the same one. The 4v5 was a pretty big upset.
I mean,
once
a game
Glory
coming in.
The 5th time. All right. Other than that, Lotus winning a game, definitely improving on last year. I feel like they're really getting it together, and that Lotus is starting to bloom.
Yeah, I think Lotus is probably going to be fighting for playoffs this season. Something I personally want to talk about, as I am invested in it, it's the only time I'm allowed to talk about my team, which is Team Zen, is that Team Zen got picked 2-1 against them last week when they played L2K off stream, and we actually won that game. So the fact that the panel picked against my team and ended up winning is a minor upset in my book.
I would like to point out that I did not pick against your team.
Yes, you were good.
I was the only one who didn't pick against Zen in either matchup. So from there, we had. I would say we also one of my biggest things about this week was Lotus, and not just that, the surprise of their bot lane. Yes, we've seen Redbeard. I said Redbeard before. We know he's a good player. No, we hadn't seen Sandy before. Well, that was weird. We've seen them before. We haven't seen Sandy before, and they ended up being a lot better than I think people expected.
The biggest thing for me when it comes to Sandy, though, is that one of the games, is particularly the Zyra game, he or she, I'm not 100% sure, so I'm leaving both options open on that, was caught out of position a lot. And that's something that is very concerning for me, especially on those squishy supports, which are pretty much where the meta is right now. That is very, very, can be very punished very heavily, because by taking out the person with the sight stone, you can very easily set up vision control around an objective.
I just wanted to quickly add on to that. Yeah, I feel like we scrimmed against them recently, Crown Royal. Their bot lane was good. It was definitely a lot better than what I expected them to be coming into this split. But again, they still have a long ways to go with Sandy. He has a pretty good Thresh, but Thresh isn't really in the meta right now. And basically, you got to play Thresh to be a support in this league. I swear, everybody has a Thresh. It's just such a contested pick when it was overpowered.
Yeah, and we are getting confirmation that Sandy is a girl. So we apologize for that, Sandy.
Grill.
We're not sure. We're never sure on these kind of things. But from there, I wasn't saying that they are the best bot lane in the league, because that title is still up for grabs at this point. Right now, it's kind of leaning towards Weeb, but just because like they've been able to win both games so far, they've been able to win a lot in the preseason. But at the same time, I think they're a lot better than we expected, given the fact that originally TSM Sandy was the last ranked player in our top 45 for the preseason, and then she made the jump all the way up to 13th. So I think that that's just one amazing thing.
Yeah, and just a quick point about Weeaboo is they're actually going to be without Full House for the remainder of the season, as he did break his hand before last week. So Weeaboo will be running a new AD carry in this coming week. So we don't even know where that bot lane is going to be in the next week.
Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Weeaboo dropped 2 games next week, because Weeaboo is, from playing against them, Weeaboo has a giant focus on their bot lane. If Full House doesn't get going in the early game and they don't like catch on your mistakes, you can easily win them in team fights. I realized that. We made a major mistake in the game that we lost against them. Then we couldn't like come back from it. But other than that, I feel like Full House is just their team. So until he gets better, I wouldn't be surprised if Weeaboo suffers a lot.
I feel like their bot lane's actually their weakest link. Well, their top lane's basically just kind of there, but like their mid laner does good almost every single game, and their jungle seems to focus more on their mid laner. I think their bot lane's there to be consistent, but like I don't think they've really stomped many lanes.
To be fair, last time when we played them, Malzahar was mid, and I don't remember what Calridian was on, but it wasn't like a real carry thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just basically on the bot lane to carry, so that might be influencing my view a little bit.
In that game, he was on a Maokai.
Yeah.
I was saying then, of course, when you have a Malzahar or a Maokai as opposed to a Xayah Blitzcrank lane, the Xayah Blitzcrank is going to be the one expected to kind of get the early snowball and carry. So I can see why everybody think certain things like this. I would say why we could do that. Also, apparently, we're back to not knowing what TSM Sandy's gender is, because apparently it's flipping back and forth. Either somebody's memeing me in the YouTube chat or whatever. Okay, so moving on to our next topic. For this, we actually are introducing a new topic this week. This topic involves is something that we are going to call the Booster of the Week. All right, this is going to be our weekly MVP, the one player who just shined above and beyond everyone else. And I know you guys on the stream have already seen it for a second because I accidentally clicked the wrong slide, but the panel does not know who it is except for one person. So, our Booster of the Week for this week, for week 1, is actually one of the people sitting here on the panel with us. It's Kazulu Cthulhu.
Hey.
So you are officially the Booster of the Week. Do you have?
Let's get it.
Let's say so. Yeah, between a 42 KDA, what the actual heck was that? And just insane Leona play in the 4v5. You get it, man. Congrats.
Well, thanks. I gotta say though, Leona is like one of my bread and butter champions. I've been playing it ever since like day one. Before my Thresh, which has 247k mastery points on it, I've been playing Leona. So, which is something that I can pull out of anywhere, really. Plus, I don't really like to look at it as other players hate when I say this kind of stuff. My team, and specifically, they hate when I be humble like this. But I don't really care where I'm ranked at all. Honestly, if I'm still in bronze silver, then I'm still not good. That's my theory. Is like if I'm not getting paid to play, then I'm not good yet. So still gotta get better.
Well, you're still number 1 on our rankings this week, and you're still our Booster of the Week. So either way, congrats.
Thank you. I really do appreciate it.
I
say, anybody else want to say anything to our Booster?
Kazuli, you've, in my opinion, there's been some contention in the Discord about the rankings of you being so high as to why I've rated you above other supports in particular, and the reason why I personally rate you as high is because you've been a top tier support for almost 2 full seasons of Compete League. Like you've been here for almost at least 1 full season and a split or 2 beyond that. And you've just been a very solid support throughout. And I've never had any issues with any of your plays. So that's why I've always considered you one of the best supports, if not the best support in the league.
Quick side note. Kid is actually the best support in the league because he's better than me.
Yeah, that's true.
When he plays
he
support,
play support,
but he's stuck on top lane. Yeah.
All right, and with that, we are actually going to move on to the meat of our discussion. Is we're going to talk about our rankings, why we play certain players, certain things, and just overall discussions of like what put the teams in certain positions. All right, I was saying, here we go. One thing I would like to start talking about is the ranking of TSM Sandy. All right, I say because I know everybody loves bragging on Sandy, everybody loves that. But in my personal rankings, I actually had Sandy as the, I believe, 6th support. I saw a lot of, from what I could tell, there were a lot of strengths against the weaker, more I would say, divided, pure misbalanced team, and then against against SPK, there were a lot more weaknesses that I saw, being out of position on that champion, things like that.
I wanted to tie in here. Sandy also, the grill foreman, because she's a grill, but she could also be a guy. The grill foreman, she gets caught a lot. Like you said earlier, she gets caught a lot. And when you're a support, being a support means that you just run up and then you harass and you hope you don't get caught. You do your best to dodge. And if you can't dodge and you don't have good positioning, you can't be a good support.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think against SPK, Lotus against SPK, I think that's one of the reasons that Lotus did not do that well. I think if their support hadn't gotten caught, their bot lane in general, then they probably would have just beat us. Their bot lane pretty much threw the lead for them.
Yeah, I personally had Sandy 5th. I my whole concept about her is, as I mentioned earlier, he gets caught a lot, and that's
we do have a conversation. It is a she.
Okay, she gets caught a lot, but that is something that is easily remedied because you can adjust around that as your team. is making sure you're rotating someone with the support, whether it's the jungler, whether it's the ADC, whether it's the top laner, to make sure that support's being able to get out those wards. So it's something that is easily adjustable. It's why I kind of rated her in the middle of the pack in terms of supports, because her laning phase on Zyra, despite the later games, was still quite good in my opinion.
It's so annoying.
Yeah, and that's one thing. Like, I did see the laning phase, but as a player, a lot of where I judge people is how they handle themselves in team fights, regardless of how their laning went. One of the reasons that I always rate Crown Me Kid so high in team fights, like in the preseason, I had him over Buddy 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 as my number one top laner because Kid was a far superior team fighter while requiring a lot less resources. And when I look at Sandy, I think of these. I say the resources that went into it in the early game, but then the positioning that cost a kind of waste of those resources in the mid and late game. Don't get me wrong, she remedied it big time against Balance. I believe. Let me check. I would say yeah, she went 6-3 and 23 on Bard, which is nuts, especially seeing as it was against Kairos on Kairos' Thresh, which is Kairos' best champion. So I think that it is a tale of two games, I guess. I'd say Sandy played very well in the first game early, but I think it just kind of collapsed into the mid game, and then of course second game she stomped.
I will almost want to say that the thing that kind of made the difference, because from what it sounds like, because we obviously didn't see the Bard game, I don't believe so, as I do believe that was a non-stream game, was Bard has a lot more ability to get out of bad situations, while if Zyra's in a bad situation, she just dies. So that's partially just the mechanics of the champion. The other thing is that with Sandy's style is if the rest of the map is winning, she can get away with positioning aggressively. But on that Zyra game, it was really only bot lane that was doing well. So any positioning errors that she had was punished extremely heavily, while in the Bard game, they may not necessarily that happen as the rest of the map was doing better. So that's a potential reasoning. Obviously, we don't know 100% for sure what happened.
I wanted to just tie in here real quick. Based on what you guys are saying, I feel like Sandy plays a lot like how I used to in like the first split. How I would always be like super aggressive, but Sandy just has like the lack of explosive plays needed to outbalance the positioning problem. And I've worked on my positioning a lot. It takes a decent amount of time to fix, especially when you're so used to it. It's muscle memory to just be a certain place. But once she either improves her play a little bit more, I'm not saying a lot, just like a little bit more to get that overbalance. She's at like 45, 55. Once she does that, once she meets that balance or goes over that balance, she'll be a really good support.
Yeah, personally, I think also it helps to have as good of an AD carry as she does, because in that lane, you also have Redbeard, who went absolutely off this week. I mean, I believe the ending skill, kills were around. I want to say it was close to 30 for Redbeard. Okay, no, it was 25 with around 17 assists, which is insane for a two-game series. Which is insane for a two-game series. I'm swallowing my tongue.
I feel like their bot lane's really good, like in lane, but I feel like Sandy's playing more like a mid laner than a support. Like mid laners have more gold and they can actually go off on their own. But I think that if like the Zyra and Bard games both, if they would have just stayed more with Gage or Redbeard and just kind of let him do his thing and peeled for him instead of trying to like one shot people, I think they would have easily won most of those team fights. They just need to peel back more than try and like 1v1 the enemy laners.
All right. Another team I think we all want to talk about is another team that we rated low originally, but actually had a 2-0 week. Team Zen.
I am excusing myself from this discussion.
I think that very much you showed that Zen has talent definitely on their players. Yes, they did have a weaker pair of opponents. But at the same time, say both of their opponents going 0-2, but at the same time, they still were very, very good in those victories. I mean,
yeah,
Jason Kill Lee had 2 deaths the entire time, and I believe had a 13 KDA each game. I could be mistaken, but I believe that that's the case. 11 KDA the second, 13 the first.
Mm. I don't really have much to say on Zen, but I do know that they are mostly led by their top laner, Jason Kill. But the rest of the lanes, from looking at the rankings at least, the rest of the lanes look like they're pretty average. So I feel like that's a big weakness that they might have. But again, we're going to have to wait till they get streamed so more of us can see what exactly is going on.
Wait this week. They play Lotus on stream, boys. Let's go.
I could be wrong, but aren't they having some roster issues?
It is not roster issues from what I've been told. It is that they are having a rotating bot lane where Funk MD and Exhaust the Tank will be playing at the same time, and then Kirutin will be playing with Sky.
Backwards. It's the 2 bot lanes is our early game bot lane for our 5 o'clock games is Sky and Exhaust the Tank, while our primary bot lane, in my opinion, is Kirutin and Funk, which will be our later game bot lane because Funk has a class commitment that he can't get out of, so he doesn't get home till 15 minutes after game 1 starts.
Is that the Sky, or is that a different Sky?
That's a different Sky, I think.
Okay.
I saw their jungler posting and looking for team, unless they're just going to start running their secondary jungler. And I thought that their secondary ADC was looking for a team too, but I could be wrong.
I actually had some info that rumor has it that there is a new jungler, Eat My Dragon Balls, coming in for Zen, formerly on Pyramus Chaos, formerly on, I believe he was on Onyx before that.
I mean, we have the coach here. Why don't we just ask him?
Well, there were some issues with the jungler. I'm not going to mention his name, but there were some issues after our scrims last night against Ozone Nitrogen, one of the Bronze and Silver Open League teams, which I honestly think is not going to go there. But there were some issues within the team after that, as well as some commitment issues coming from them. So he ended up making the decision to leave the team. In terms of our secondary ADC, Sky, all I can say on that issue is there's an issue in the bot lane in and of itself. I don't know what the decision has been made 100%, but there were some issues between Sky and Exhaust the Tank, which may or may not have led to Sky leaving the team. I don't know 100% for sure, as I haven't discussed it fully with Funk yet, so I don't know 100% what's going on there. As roster decisions are not what I'm there for. As everyone goes quiet.
All right. Speaking of which, how do you think these roster changes will affect Zen in terms of ranking, in terms of player ranking? I personally think that having a duo bot lane kind of brings it down a little bit because you're having to rate 2 players who are rating against 2 opponents, so you don't really get a full picture at either. So, for example, in my preseason power rankings, I had Funk MD as my number 2 AD carry. However, in this week's, I had the combined Funk and Sky at 5 because I didn't see enough of either to put them any higher. And I ended up putting, I believe, Exhaust the Tank and Kirutin at 5 as well, combined as 1, because of the fact that, again, I didn't see enough individually from them.
It just feels to me more like their secondary bot lane, like I could be wrong, is more like the B team for when Funk can't make it. Because from scrimming against them, Funk is a really good ADC, and he has really good support. And their secondary bot lane was just not on the same level, in my opinion.
Yeah, go ahead.
I also got to say, like, having a dual bot lane, it's got to be hard for practice because not only do the bot laners have to practice with each other, but the team also has to get used to how the other bot lane plays. Because believe it or not, a lot of stems off of the bot lane, at least kind of how Crown Royal plays. I'm not sure if Zen's mentality is the same. They just like in League of Legends, a lot stems off the bot lane, especially when you want to get that first tower goal and you want to rush it down. You usually go to the bot lane first because more people equals more damage on the tower.
Yeah,
like you can just start that snowball easier in the bot lane.
Yeah, It's something that I personally wasn't a fan of. However, I can understand it because from our perspective is that, well, yes, bot lane is priority, but as have been mentioned previously, is we have a star top laner, Jason, who's arguably the best top laner in the league. So we may necessarily be putting more resources into him. However, we might not be. So having a set duo bot lane that we rotate, at least they have synergy. And they have relatively similar styles, even if their individual play is different.
One last point I would like to make on Zen is that while Jason Kildee is one of the best things, I would compare it right back to that last season Balls Johnson versus Crown Me Kid situation. Kid, as the same as this season, is the best tank top laner in the league, but Jason seems to be the best carry top laner in the league. I know you have some debate there, but for the moment, at least that is the way it's looking. So it seems that between those two, I say that's one of the reasons why I'm kind of putting, like in my individual rankings, Crown Me Kid over Jason is because the meta favors tanks at the moment, at least until those carries like Fiora, carries like
Camille.
who's the other one? No, not Camille. The other one that rose to prominence this
Jax.
patch, Jax. When those start hitting the Rift in mass, I think that then it might shift towards a more Jason favored. But until then, I just think that it's favored in Kid's favor in that matchup.
I don't really have much to say about that. Like, Kid is obviously the best, like, most well-rounded top laner out of them all. And I think I've only seen Jason and Buddy play a few times, but I think that it really just depends on the matchup. Like, I think they're actually pretty close. Jason might be a little bit better of a team player, though.
We actually did scrim XPK this week, and in terms of laning phase, Jason was controlling the lane both games against Buddy. We did have some misplays that led to Buddy getting kills, but in terms of straight laning, Jason put Buddy in the dirt. He farmed better in game 2, but Buddy just straight up lost in both matchups. Although I don't think there's another top laner that you have to commit as many bans to as Jason. Like, very similar to Balls Johnson last season. Like, you can't give him Tom, you can't give him Darius, you can't give him Malawi. So that's like 3 bans you have to take away, or you just pick your poison.
I feel like what a lot of people are forgetting about Kid is that Kid didn't like to play tanks before. Kid, at least how he said to me, he was like, there's always the meme that Kid can't play tanks. That was starting back when I started joining the league. But now it's like, oh, Kid's the best top tank laner. So imagine him going from he can't play tanks to going to the top tank player. Now, if he was a bad tank player, that means that he had to be a good carry player. So imagine how good that's going to be when it comes back.
Well, maybe. I would say we could see things like the Kled, the Fiora, things like that come back and definitely see that show up. Another team I would like to talk about that had some certain upsets this week with their revitalized bot lane out of mana. I know it's a topic that not everybody wants to touch.
I refuse to comment upon Out of Mana, other than the fact that I still think they have a very one-dimensional play style, and if they are one-dimensional play style or their carry lane doesn't pop off, they just don't succeed as a team. It was the same issue when Jinja was on the team. If their carry lane, which may now be their bot lane, doesn't pop off, I don't think they win games.
Well, sorry, go ahead.
I think both their top, their top is basically not really there to carry, but I think both their mid and ADC could carry it. But I guess it is safe to say they have the worst support in the league.
I mean, I won't disagree with you on that.
I mean,
point.
I didn't know you were supporting for them.
Oh. Yeah, you didn't hear about that?
I'm sorry, I had to do
They
that.
trade in. Again, I just wanted to. He basically already said my point about how is a very single goal team. If they can't get that role going, then it's an easy win for the opposing team. Plus, they went up against Korea L2K, who will be, I guess, we'll be talking about later. But I'm not quite sure if that was the double boots Udyr game or
Yes,
not.
It was.
Oh Jesus! They almost lost that.
No, I thought the double boots game was against SPK because that's when Buddy went full AD Renekton.
No, it was not. The double
It was
boots
not.
game was Out of Mana versus L2K because I cast it down on stream, and honestly, let L2K have it a little bit much for the Yasuo and Udyr. They almost won the game, so my apologies there, L2K. You proved me wrong. You ain't gonna hear me admit that much.
I feel like Out of Mana should be a bit lower than 3. Maybe put them behind Zen.
It helps that they have the best AD carry in the league at the moment.
That's true.
I was saying, between his rank, between his play and all that, it's just he can put the team on his back if he needs to. Squish is one of the early front runners for MVP, along with Kazulu and a couple other people. And I feel like if it wasn't for Squish, I feel like the team would be weaker. For instance, in my original position rankings, I'm trying to figure out how to say this. I put them a lot lower, and then they started to show up. One thing I did notice is Fletchender showed significant improvement as opposed to his preseason form. Maybe it was just me imagining things. I saw Tremazing play fairly well in both games, racking up the most assists of any player. And I saw, honestly, Peen had struggled a good bit against L2K. Granted, that's not the best matchup for Cassiopeia, but at the same time, there were positioning issues in team fight.
Can I just say one thing about that build? Don't ever build that on Cassio. Ever. Don't ever build those items on Cassio. That tilted me so hard watching it. I'm sorry that I have to admit that on stream, but
that's what tilted you? That's what tilted you, not the double boots Udyr Yasuo combo.
I've seen strange things in my league days, man. I've been playing since season 4.
There were 0 knockups for a Yasuo comp.
Again, though, I feel like has a lot going. They have a decent player base, but what they lack in a 5s environment is a good macro game. And a good macro game, it doesn't matter how bad your players are. If you have a good macro game, then you can be number 1 overall.
Well, there is a rumor about them that has been going around the league. I don't know if any of you guys have heard, but the rumor is that Shadow Balls, the top laner for Pure Misbalance, and their former mid laner, who was ranked number 4, I believe, after Jason, Kid, and Buddy.
Yeah, Shadow was 4th.
I would say he is out of mana now.
That's a good pickup for them because I think Shadow Balls is very solidly the 4th best top laner. But I think those top 4 are relatively close. There's not a giant discrepancy in terms of play. There are a little bit of different nuances in how each individual player plays, but they're all very solid all-around top laners. In terms of laning phase, team fighting, that type of thing. In terms of their play style, there are differences, obviously, but in terms of their all-around play, I think they're all very strong top laners.
I want to get a hold of Shadow Balls as agent or something, because moving from Pure Misbalance to moving to Out of Mana, that's a pretty big step. Especially looking at the tier list and all. Out of Mana's jungler is 6 ranked higher than Pure Misbalance jungler, and it's the same, if not worse, in other roles.
I will point out that said jungler is no longer with the team. He fell victim to the Crown Royal curse. You know, the curse of you play Crown Royal and then your jungler leaves.
And then you tilt? Yeah. We have a habit of doing that. It happened to both
Ozone Carbon and Pure Misbalance.
Yeah, we're sorry.
We know that Shadow's a good player, but he seems like he wants to play a lot of carries, and it seems like Out of Mana always had Silent on tanks. So, I know he's good, but I'm not sure how well he's actually going to fit in, because I think they're going to have to make him change his playstyle to actually fit them.
I feel like if he gets Jarvan, he'll be fine, but if teams start banning Jarvan, that'll be when the issue starts.
Because they rely on their top and jungle to be the tanks most of the time.
Well, there are these bruisers that you can build kind of a semi-tank, like Jarvan, like Renekton. Champions like that who can still snowball in the early game, and if they get ahead, can start building damage, but can still build that tankiness into the mid to late game, and still provide a little bit of utility in team fights, especially Jarvan more than Renekton, I would say.
I wanted to touch on that again because if they have a really good bot lane and a pretty decent mid lane, and we haven't seen their jungler yet, but if they have that, then imagine putting a person on a tank. I mean, not a tank, a hard carry, and giving another threat to that team. Imagine how good that's going to be for them.
Yeah, all right, moving on to another team in the league. Like I said, Weebu beat down coming in 2-0. I'll say I know that not everyone here is a big fan. I know that there are a couple people around the community that don't necessarily like Weeaboo, and I know that several people are, like I said, are kind of contentious about it. However, they did end up going 2-0 against both SPK and Crown Royal. I know that's, like I said, I'm sorry to both the players of both teams that are present.
Win some, lose some.
There you go. That is a great attitude to have. But at the same time, they're showing that they have skill. It will hurt that Full House is gone. Yes, that is a huge blow because in my power ranking, in writing the power rankings, I put Full House as my Weeaboo Player of the Week because he did the best overall. He went off this week compared to his preseason form, where there were a lot of questions surrounding him, whether or not he would be staying on Weeaboo due to performance issues. When overall, he went 5-1-5 in one game. And then in the other game, he went he went 8-0-3. Like that, he's proving yourself. But with that gone, the question is, how will Weeaboo do?
I feel like Weeaboo is a really good team. They have a really good goal. Like they always know what their goal is and who to get the kills to, and they always do it. The only thing that Weeaboo can't do is like they can't win if you don't make mistakes. So if you don't make mistakes, Weeaboo, it'll be a lot easier for you to win. I'm not going to say, I take that back. I'm not going to say that they're unable to win games without the enemy team making mistakes. But if you don't, it's going to be a lot easier for you to win.
So just a couple quick points here is, I've always thought Weeaboo was the best team in the league because I, as the coach of Zen, have scrimmed against them multiple times, and I know how good they can be. And I think their strongest phase is the fact that if they ever get an advantage, they will almost always close that game out. The things that I see them struggle with is if you have a better mid-game team fighting composition, they can go over aggressive and get punished extremely heavily for it. Which is something that Team Zen ended up using against them, which is how we beat them. I did actually help them with a tryout earlier today for a new ADC. I don't think he's necessarily as good as Full House, but I think he will be an adequate substitution should they choose to go with. So I don't think there's going to be a giant drop-off, but there's still going to be some drop-off, as Hyper mentioned, from Full House.
I honestly think until teams learn to counter them, their bot lane's not going to matter that much. Like, their support is good on almost every single support, and as long as their ADC is able to like not feed and auto attack, I think that the rest of their team is just really solid. I think that it's mostly going to be, I don't think they're going to really drop off or anything. It's mostly just going to be if other teams can actually like start countering them or not.
Mm-hmm. All right, one other team to mention this week that we haven't mentioned most at all, except for in an unfortunate negative light, has been Korea L2K. They came in with a lot of momentum, a decent showing at PSI, only losing to SPK Black, which is not, obviously, which, given how SPK performed in the tournament, was not at all a bad, I would say, was not at all a bad resume. And then from there, they came in and dropped 0-2 with a constantly shuffling roster, with questionable picks such as Double Boots Udyr and a Yasuo in a composition with no knockups, also with an Ivern support, all in one game, mind you. So I just don't see the situation, including there was even another game where they went Blitzcrank and Kha'Zix, neither of who are very strong in this meta.
Yeah, I feel like the biggest issue is, I'm sorry because of the...
No, you're fine.
Is that Random Username was unable to play this week. So I feel like that was the biggest reason as to why they had so much shuffle around in terms of their roster. And we did punish them extremely heavily for the causes in the Blitzcrank. But I still say they showed a fair bit of potential. The question is how long are they going to be without Random Username? That's going to be the deciding factor as to whether or not they can come back later on in the season.
I feel like Korea L2K is going to be, without a doubt, the gutsiest team of this entire split. Because if they did Yasuo, Udyr, Ivern in one game, if they can like take that like idea of bringing out champs that are never really explored and use it to their benefit, like making comms out of champions like, I don't know, like Shyvana, who rarely sees any play, or Yorick or something, it'll probably catch a lot of people off guard, and they won't know how to counter it.
I
feel like that's going to be a giant helping point for them. I'm sorry, continue.
Sorry, did not mean to interrupt you there. I thought you had finished. I apologize for that. But one thing about that is, like I said, like everybody said, random username needs to come back. Because in all honesty, I think he's their best player. I placed him second on my preseason rankings in terms of the mid lane because I saw what he could do at PSI, where he was even winning against Tube Socks, which at the time was not something very hard to do. I'm sorry, not something very easy to do. Wow, that came out completely wrong. Tube Socks, I apologize. I meant to say that was not something that was easy to do. I apologize for that. No, but from there also, you could see these picks. I've definitely seen them being the FlyQuest of the league in that they have these stunner picks that could surprise everyone. Like how FlyQuest would constantly pull out the Shaco and it would just catch everybody off guard. It didn't win much, but it still just shocked people in their games. And I think we could see things like that. Things like Master Yi, things like a Mumu, which we don't really see as much.
I am still waiting for the Evelyn Shen combo by them. That's my next prediction in terms of their next level strat, the Evelyn Shen combo.
I mean, that combo may only work for a couple of weeks more. Her rework is impending, right? Released a preview the other day, which was still legitimately like terrifying.
That's probably
it's about 2 weeks out.
I don't think it's going to be for the preseason because they said that Evelyn would come out before November.
Really?
Yes, they have said that the last champion
it'll be on 720-ish.
The last champion supposedly reworked this year will be, I think they said it would be Aatrox, would be the last champion reworked this year. From there, I'm going to move on
to a much more lighthearted topic, I should say.
I say moving on from there, actually not a lighthearted topic. We've already discussed pure misbalance. We've already discussed everything. Like the last team for us to really discuss is Ozone Carbon, who lost in that 4v5 earlier this week. So,
yikes! I can sum them up. Yikes!
I feel like Ozone Carbon. I feel like their issue is they're still having a lot of roster issues, and I don't know if they're necessarily getting a lot of help within the Ozone organization. I don't really know what the status is of the organization in and of itself as a whole, because I only really have experience with Ozone Carbon, not Carbon Nitrogen, which is a pretty solid team in my personal opinion. So I just think the split they're just going to have a struggle of the split because I think outside of Arxton they don't really have a lot of talent on the roster currently. But there's still a lot of time left where they can pick up some better players and look to try to scavenge some wins together because Arxton, we all know, can go off at any moment, and there's not a lot you can do about it.
Definitely agree. There's a reason he's been in more CL finals than any other player.
That's also the reason why we banned his 2 best champions against him in our game. I think everybody in the league knows how good Arxton is. That's why he gets focused the most on this team, especially. But I feel like a lot of people aren't giving credit to Sloppy Joe and I'm Archangel. I feel like they can be really good. They just aren't using their resources correctly. And what I mean by that is like they're focusing on bigger things when they need to get their foundation down. Once you get a solid foundation, that's when you can start branching off and doing all this other like cool mechanically stuff. But you need to get that good foundation down. They had really good ideas in lane, from what I saw at least. They had really good ideas, but they just couldn't execute on them.
Okay, so from there, I say it did not help though that there was the internal issue with Gingis and I, all of that. Everybody knows about that. We're not gonna dwell on that. But it also one hit wonder. I would say that I thought one hit wonder, kind of disappointed in terms of his play. Came in kind of pretty highly touted, and then I'm not sure.
Was this his first game ever on
It
CL,
was.
or was his
It was, but he was
that might
sort
be
of
why?
touted coming in, and then was just stomped. I don't know the stats against the Palladium game because I was not. I was told not to, worry about it. But at the same time, I kind of expected more. I want to say.
One hit was on Ozone Cobalt for a little while, and I'm not sure how many games they actually played in the Open League. This was last split, but he was supposed to be a pretty good mid laner then. So it might be internal issues more, because they have a lot of different personalities on their team.
I think it's also the fact that it was like, I'm gonna assume at least this was like his first stream game, and the stream jitters, even if we're not like on the LCS stage in front of like 50,000, like 1,500 people or something, it's still like very nerve wracking. I can speak from experience. I know other people probably don't have this issue, but like you're always gonna think about the people judging you for like the first, second, third, maybe even like the fourth game that you're streamed. Eventually, it's gonna hit him that it doesn't matter what other people think. And I think being really bad for him means that he can only go up, and that we already did the worst that we can to him. He just gotta go back to playing like his normal self.
I think that's definitely a good way to. Now there is one more team that we kind of do have to talk about. I say, and I was given the green light for us to talk about this, so we can, despite
Lotus 2.
no. Ozone Palladium has certain pieces there. There isn't even a rumor going around that the former Pyramus Balance, former SE Orion, and former, I actually don't remember what the team was before that, 80 carry Velos is going back to, I would say, is going back to a team with Mewtwo, and that is a bot lane that's energized as well. But the rumor is also that Pipsqueak is moving to support and that Mewtwo is moving into a sub role. How this will affect the team when they had such a disappointing week, I don't know. But it doesn't seem it just seems like there are things that need to be handled on Palladium. I don't think that it's just because they're absolutely terrible. I think that there is definitely pieces there. It's just about them all working together.
My thing about Palladium is I just think that there's some very strong personalities, and I don't think a lot of people can work very effectively with that. However, if Velos does end up joining the team, I remember casting Mewtwo and Velos. They're a very solid bot lane. They can work well together. I think Aztec is at least acceptable level of a mid laner. Does have some very strong picks. If they can look to try to draw some more bans into that bot lane, maybe he can get his Anivia or his Lux and look to really start making plays, because I know he can be a very solid mid laner. It's just whether or not he can get his picks is really the biggest thing for me.
Honestly, speaking from experience, we had two players come in this split, and we had them come in pretty like right next to the MSI tournament. PSI?
PSI.
Yeah, PSI. We had them come in like right before the PSI tournament, and we played with them, and it was chaotic as
heck.
Yes, it was very chaotic. But as we grew and grew and grew, it got a lot better. I feel like for like the next 4 weeks, I want to say for the next 4 weeks, Ozone Palladium probably won't be good. If all these roster changes are true, at least they're not going to be good. But once they start meshing together, and once they start thinking more about the macro rather than the micro and the lane phase, and how I'm going to carry this game, and once they start getting together and thinking about like League of Legends as like a 5v5 instead of a 1v1 5 times, I feel like that's when they're going to get a lot better.
All right, and I guess that wraps up our ranking section. And I guess we kind of fulfilled the rumor report. I'd say the rumor mill section from that I would say within the ranking section. So now we're moving on to a section that I'm going to take over for the week for Kid. Is we are going to address our donkey of the week. Or whatever a donkey makes.
That's right.
That's close enough.
Okay, yeah,
I
whatever.
think he makes waffles.
Okay, so drum roll. The donkey of the week for the post week 1 podcast is Glory Hound. Glory, you received the donkey of the week because your team won a 4v5 without you and stomped it too. So I guess they don't even need you to win games. I'm just kidding, Glory. I think you're great, man. I mean, there's a reason I put you at number 3 overall. But at the same time, for your team winning a game without you, you, sir, are our donkey of the week.
At least he did more damage than Jinja.
I mean, that's not true, but
I did more damage than Jinja.
That's a good point.
Actually is true. Okay, moving on to the picks for this week. We're gonna, or did Kazulu?
I just wanted to address something real quick. Glory is a really good player. His internet is the biggest enemy of Zero. It's good now, but I've said this in Trash Talk chat and a bunch of other chats, but if Glory were there, I would not have a 42 KD. I would have a lot lower one, mostly because Glory, I back and Glory would 1v5 and I wouldn't be there to get any assists.
Draven. But yeah, I understand Glory is a great player. The person who, I say, Arrow introduced him to me, and I was allowed to bring him into CL against you guys, if I remember correctly, in the semifinal match last year, where he went off on a Sivir game. Now, moving on to our picks for the week. We are going to address every game that's going on this week. We're going to pick, and we're going to give like a quick 1 to 2 sentence dissertation of why we think someone's going to win. We're not going to go too in depth, but we are going to just talk a little bit about it. All right, the first game on the schedule is Ozone Carbon versus SPK Black. Now, I will have to cause you to refrain from answering this, seeing as you are on SPK Black, so I have to make you refrain here. Who wants to go first?
I think SPK wins this. I just think Buddy is just too strong in the top lane. I think he just has too strong of a matchup in that top lane, even if the roster moves that had been mentioned end up going through.
That was Ozone Palladium.
Palladium, sorry.
No.
There's 6 Ozone teams. I'm sorry. I apologize for confusing.
This is this is going to be Jason versus Arxen.
No, this is Buddy versus Arxen.
I'm sorry, Buddy versus Arxen. You are correct.
Yeah, I think people know what to take away against Arxen. I'm assuming he'll probably get his Rumble, but I think Buddy can just punish him extremely hard, especially if SPK invests in Buddy like they normally do. I think it's going to be a fairly solid game for SPK.
Well, if Koro disconnects, I definitely give it to SPK Black.
Oh!
However, if he doesn't, I still give it to SPK Black. Just because looking at SPK Black and playing against them in the PSI, they were a lot better than what they were last week. And I feel like that's going to show next week. I feel like this week they had a little bit off, a little bit something going on the side that ruined them. But now this week it's probably going to be fixed. And they're going to be a lot better. So that's what I think, at least.
I am also going to pick SPK because of the fact that they are also bringing back their 5-man roster from last week, whereas Ozone Carbon have to replace Jinja after the rumors of him disconnecting during game and just going silent after a rage quit. But I think that it will not be a one-sided stomp, but I still think that SPK will win convincingly. All right, moving on to the second game. Primus, this is one I'm going to have to ask you to refrain from it. Comments on. This is the stream game, the first stream game, Lotus versus Zen.
I'll start us off. I feel like, you know what? I'm gonna give it to Lotus because they have Venomcast, who's a pretty good jungler, and they have Redbeard, who's a really good ADC, and they have Sandy, who again needs to work on some things, but those things can be improved on. And once they do get improved on, she's going to be a lot better. Mm-hmm. But they also have the secret factor, and I'm not sure I should tell you guys, but they have Cyronox, a.k.a. Ish. Man. Ish is going to shine this game. I guarantee it. They're going to put him on either Scion or they're going to put him on Nautilus. And Cyronox's Nautilus is something to be afraid of. I've played against it, and it is disgustingly horrible, but it is brain dead.
I feel like Jason's just gonna end the game through top lane, and as long as Zen has the right bot lane in, then it's not really gonna be. I think it's gonna be pretty one-sided, and Zen's gonna take it.
I think I'm going to pick Zen here, but it's more of because I think that between the new jungle edition, I think that between the bot lanes that are, I'll say, supposedly clicking on all points, that I think that if they don't feed Redbearded in lane and he doesn't get a snowball on one of his signature champions like Twitch or Tristana, I think that Zen can take it through their solo lanes. But it has, again, you cannot let Redbeard snowball or else you will lose that game. So I'm going to give it as Zen, but a just to Zen. All right, and now the next game. This is one I can't comment on. Out of Mana versus Pure Misbalance. Who wants to start?
I'll start with a very controversial pick. So I feel like if Kairos pops off and she returns to form, she'll definitely carry the bot lane well enough to where the bot lane can carry the mid lane and the mid lane can carry the top lane and stuff like that. But if she doesn't and she doesn't return to form, dead, gone, dust in the wind. I think it's not too much to ask, though, of her to return to form. I think I'm going to give it to Pure Misbalance.
As much as me, as a personal opinion of the team, want to say no to Out of Mana, I just think Squishalele is just too good of an ADC. And as good as Kairos is, I think Squishalele is just such a phenomenal ADC that even if he does struggle a little bit individually in lane, I just think his ability to execute in team fights is going to be what's going to carry out the game. But I think it's going to be a lot closer than the records indicate.
I think that as long as Out of Mana bans Thresh, then Kairos is just going to be kind of like mid-tier support. Like, I think the Kairos is like one of the best Threshers in Bronze Silver, but
she's going to play Morgana, I guarantee. If they ban Thresh, it's Morgana. Easy peasy. She always does it.
I don't think she can carry against Bush on Morgana. And
you say that, but then she does, and it's just annoying.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we have...
She does.
So, Iheel, who are you picking?
I'm picking Out of Mana.
Okay, so it's the panel has voted. It is 2-1 Out of Mana on that one. Moving on to the next game. Oops, sorry, I misplaced the schedule there for a moment. The next game is Crown Royal versus Ozone Palladium. Kazulu, I'm going to have you refrain from answering this time. I just think that between Palladium's reported issues, the roster swaps, and how dominant Crown Royal seemed last week, I just don't see Crown Royal losing this.
I agree. I don't see any reason to say anything further. I just feel like the real question is what does A-Rod want to pick in the mid lane? And same with Crown in the top lane.
Iheel?
I think it's just going to be like, I don't even think it's worth talking about, honestly. It's kind of Ozone Freelo.
Well, I would disagree on that point. Okay, so the panel has voted 3-0 Crown Royal there. The next game is actually the next streamed game. It is Korea L2K versus Weeaboo Beatdown.
Ooh.
This is a game actually all of us can vote on. Who wants to start?
I can lead this one. I think this game, unless random username is available to play this week, which is the big X factor, is I think it's going to be another one-sided game for Weeaboo Beatdown, under the caveat that if random username here, it's going to be a much closer game, but I still think Weeaboo Beatdown is going to be able to win, just because they have a very set style, and I still think that the league is still trying to figure out exactly how to properly execute against that style.
I think that L2K is probably going to pull some kind of cheat stuff out, and it's going to be a closer game than most people expect, but Weeaboo will just have way better macro and take it.
I was basically going to say exactly that. L2K is going to... They're going to... I feel like random username is going to show up, but they're still going to stick with that original style of we're going to pick something that you're never going to expect. And we're going to build it in a completely different way that you're never going to expect. That way you can't optimize against it. So I feel like that actually might help them out a little bit, where they might struggle in like the early mid game because they built armor when they were going where they should have built MR. Silly stuff like that might help them lose a bit more of that early game presence that they always have. But other than that, it's going to be Weeaboo easily.
I think it comes down to a stylistic difference. I think that based on what I've seen from Korea, it's okay that their style is a more cheese-based style, whereas Weeaboo's is a more consistency-based style. In my opinion, consistency will beat cheese 9 times out of 10. You can get that one surprise game. Occasionally it happens, but I don't see it happening here. I apologize for that. I am going to pick Weeaboo here. Weeaboo has the 4-0 vote for the panel. The next game, Team Zen versus Out of Mana. This is one that everybody kind of wishes was streamed because this is hyped up to be a great game. I'll start on this one because I think that this is if Funk is in this game, then that is just going to be insane battle of the bot lanes. You have Funk versus Squishy Lele, Tremazing versus Kirutin, and on the other side of the map, you might end up having Shadow Balls versus Jason, Fletchender versus Eat My Dragon Balls. Like, there's so many good matchups in this situation.
Yeah, it's going to be a really close one.
I can confirm it will be Funk and Kiritin unless something extraordinary happens. It will be Funk and Kiritin in the bot lane.
Yeah, and from that, this is the game I am most torn on in this. I really don't know where to call it, but based on the fact I know who is in the top lane for Zen, and I'm not sure which top laner is showing up for Out of Mana. I'm not sure like how that will work in terms of synergies, but having brought in a new player. I'm going to pick Zen, but it's going to be like a hesitant pick because I think these two teams are so evenly matched at the moment.
I want Zen to win, but I feel like they're going to have to snowball because I just don't think that late game Funk can outposition the Platinum ADC. I think that if Zen wins it, they have to end it fairly early. I don't think they want to take it to team fights against Out of Mana, especially since their jungler mostly plays like team fight junglers, tank junglers. But I think Out of Mana will probably take it, but I think it'll be pretty close.
I think I'm going to give it to Zen because Zen has shown in like their, at least in the scrims against Weeaboo Beatdown, that they know how to counter stuff, and they get that more than a lot of the other teams in our league because they knew how to beat Weeaboo Beatdown when other teams couldn't. Like Crown Royal can beat them. So I feel like Zen has that extra thing where they're going to know what they need to do really early on, and they're going to be able to take it to that early game and just run it down. When Out of Mana, I feel like they're gonna just survive waiting for the ADC to get to the team fight stage.
All right, so the panel has voted. It is a 2-1 in Zen's favor. That will be one of the big games to look for in this coming week. And here's another big one coming up. SPK versus Lotus rematch. Who wants to start?
All right, like I said, it's just going to play Not or Scion. He's just going to carry the game. Easy peasy. No, but honestly, I feel like SPK definitely has a lot better roster than them, and they're probably going to take this one.
I'm torn because I was not personally impressed by Koro's performance in week 1, but I do think he's going to have a bounce back week this week and get back to that form that he displayed at PSI.
Wasn't he having internet connection issues, or was that someone else?
He was,
okay. But that still only goes so far.
It wasn't on the level of Glory.
It was hardware issues, but yeah.
Yeah. Like it only goes so far, but I think he's going to return to form. I think his situation, he's at least adjusted enough that he can get back to at least fairly consistent form. So I think SPK is going to take this, but I think it's going to be a long one.
I seem to be the deciding. No, I'm not the deciding vote here. Both of you picked SPK. I'm gonna go a little bit differing here. I think that if Lotus can learn, position better in team fights, then they can take over the game. I think that it will really just come down to who. I'm trying to figure out how to say this. Who can team fight better and get their AD carry to scale better? Because you have two very solid AD carries there in Redbeard versus Kuro Sensei. But I think that based upon what I saw last week, even in the early game where Lotus was getting snowballed on hard, they were still able to come back. I think that it's going to be much harder to snowball on them a second time. But at the same time, I still think I'm going to pick SPK. I'm sorry. So it is 3-0 SPK in that pick. Our next game is another streamed one. L2K versus Ozone Carbon.
Oh, this is going to be an exciting one.
This one,
So it's the 2-boot Udyr versus the 4v5. That's going to be...
I
This
think
is
this is
going
going
to
to be
be
a roll of
a
the dice.
clown fiesta to the highest degree. Get out your red noses, get out your Stephen King books, and prepare for a trip.
Okay. You know what I think would make this game amazing is if L2K decides they don't need to ban Arxen's 2 best champions, let him have his 2 best champions and just go at it 5v5 and say, we're going to let you have your best stuff, but we think we can out-cheese you.
So who do you think is going to win each game? Based upon what I've seen, I'm going to go with L2K. I mean, eventually, Cheese. I think it's going to be.
You don't sound so confident.
I don't, because this is another really even game. We've had a string of like 3 super even games, honestly, and I feel iffy picking on any of them. And in this game, I just can see L2K, if they played like they did last week against Out of Mana, I think they can take the game.
I think depending on roster changes, it's probably L2K, because even though they were basically trolling, like, they seem to have a decent macro sense. I just think it's up to them if they actually want to win or if they just want to mess around.
Yeah, I would agree. I still think L2K probably has a more solid overall roster, so I think I'm going to go with them as well.
Yeah, I think that is. I say also that is probably. I think that is one of the better matchups to watch. Is if you could see Apple Emply versus Arxen and see how that goes. Because remember,
Oh, this is streamed. Oh, this is going to be great.
It is streamed, and I might be casting it. If I do, oh man, dude, this is gonna be fun. I think L2K might be one of my favorite teams to watch at the moment, just because it's gonna be a question of what they're gonna pull out, and I love it about them. Okay, so who you picking? Like I said, I picked L2K.
I picked L2K.
I picked L2K.
I feel like Ozone Carbon, they're going to be like, well,
Oh, man.
CRL won a 4v5, right?
Yes.
Their ADC disconnected. They still won. So, let's just not pick up a jungler for this week, and let's play every single game those are for you.
In all
And
seriousness,
they're going
who's
to
your
win this
pick?
one. I think I'm going to go with Ozone Carbon. Like I said, I'm Archangel and Sloppy Joe. They have really good ideas, but they just couldn't execute on them. If they are able to execute on them, they're going to win this game.
Yeah, I would say. I think all right. I think that's a very fair analysis of it. That's a 3. However, that is a 3-1 vote for L2K to win the stream game. The next game, unfortunately, is not expected to be nearly as close. I hate saying that because it's in my org. It is Pure Misbalance versus Weeaboo Beatdown. Go ahead.
It makes you feel any better. Our game wasn't
I
close.
don't think I just think the Pyramids balance needs to actually like find their place, and they haven't done that at all right now. They're just kind of up in the air, and I don't think there's any way they could beat Weeaboo because Weeaboo looks really solid. I just don't think they have really any lane better, and I don't think they have any kind of macro.
It just doesn't seem like they have like a consistent like shot caller. It seems like from in lobby talk and stuff like that, it seemed like Kairos was like the leader. But as it went on, it didn't really seem like they had any idea of what they were doing. Like once Arxen was put on like a lower champion, he couldn't do anything around the
isn't
map.
on that team.
Wrong team. Pure misbalance. My bad. It's still everything else stands though. I got my top lane confused with my bot lane. Anyway,
So who do you think's gonna win?
I definitely Weeaboo beat down, obviously.
All right, Primus.
I don't think there's any question about this. I just feel like the biggest question is, I hate to say it to you, but how long it's going to take.
Jesus, hit him right in the heart.
My concern is I just think there's just too many internal issues for Pure Misbalance to really show up very effectively this week. That's my concern with them. with everything that's been floating around between around the team. I just don't think that they're going to show up, and I just think it's going to be an easy game for We to beat down. Probably no more than 25 minutes.
All right. Then for the next, for the final two games, the first one is L2K versus Crown Royal. Also, I forgot to say, for the last one, we have a 3-0 favor for Weeaboo Beatdown.
I think Crown Royal is going to take this one. I'm curious to see if they have any special picks that they're going to pull out for us, because I know A-Rod and Crown can play literally anything. So pretty much whenever I'm seeing them against teams that are slightly low on the table, whether or not they're going to pull things more out of the box, things that they haven't played as much, just to see how far they can push themselves in terms of off-meta picks to see how they can perform.
I don't know. You might see a troll in that game.
Ooh, Trundle support.
I'm not sure. Maybe.
I think if their ADC actually connects, it'll be a super easy game. And if their ADC doesn't connect, it will probably still be a pretty easy game. So I think that they're going to win. Crown Royal.
All right. I believe in that game. Again, it goes consistency versus cheese, and I think consistency is going to win. And I think that Crown Royal has the game. So I believe everybody voted that one. I don't.
Yeah.
You do vote? Okay. Then that is a 4-0 for Crown Royal. And then the last game of the night, SPK Black versus Ozone Palladium.
SPK. I just think there's too much chaos within Ozone Palladium right now for them to effectively field a competent team. However, in a few weeks, if they play again, maybe it's something different. But I think right now, I just think SPK is just too much more cohesive as a team, and that'll be the deciding point.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm just going to agree with basically everything you said. Yeah, SPK takes this easily. Unless Ozone Palladium has like this really explosive bot lane that they've just been hiding behind sheets and curtains and stuff, like the Wizard of Oz. But no, SPK wins this game.
All right, I am also going to pick SPK just because, like I said, that the fact that it is a new bot ADC coming in, the fact that it is coming off that O2 week, both teams' confidences I feel are lowered, and maybe but at the same time I feel that the talent is there for SPK to win this one. I mean, again, I could be proved wrong, but at the same time, at the moment, it seems like SPK will win. So that is a 3-0 favor of SPK. That is it for the picks for tonight. I'll say that's all the picks. We really need to start keeping a board on this. I should have done that. I'll probably do that after this week. Okay, so that is the end of our show tonight, guys. Does anybody have any last things they want to say?
Please come out and watch the stream. We had very good numbers past week for Bronze Super. Please keep coming out and watching it, because we don't get paid to do this. Me and Hyper, we don't get paid to cast. So please come out and at least pretend to watch us do our jobs. It's much appreciated, and enjoy some League of Legends. I mean, who doesn't want to watch some memes and dreams going on?
If you're gonna miss the clown fiesta of the century, I don't think you belong in League of Legends at all. I think you should just sell your account for $10 and just leave. Like, uninstall the game. If you're not going to witness the best clown
Go
fiesta
spend the $10
of
on
2017, then you just don't deserve to be here. It's a third game, so you have nothing going on. Just go watch it. It'll be great.
Ahil, anything last things to say?
Not really that I can think of.
All right, I was saying my final thing is, well, I mean, it's gonna be fun this week. I found out I'm actually not casting any of the games, but we will have, I'll say, several very good casters on this week. I say, in fact, Primus is casting a GP game this week. But hey, we will all see you Monday for the games. We are the panel. I am Hypertension. And goodbye and good night.